Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when we believe the storm has passed, when we convince ourselves that the worst is behind us. A sigh of relief escapes our lips and we tell ourselves, finally, it's over. But life, in its unfathomable complexity, often has other plans. The end of one struggle doesn't guarantee peace, it may only signal the beginning of a deeper reckoning. The human spirit craves resolution. We long for closure, for clean lines in the chaos of our existence. Yet, how often does life reward us with neat endings? Rarely, because endings are illusions. They are transitional moments, thresholds that we cross into uncharted territories. The torment doesn't end with the conclusion of a struggle. It evolves, reshaping itself into a more insidious form. Think of those who have climbed to great heights in their lives, believing they had finally conquered their trials. But success comes with a price, doesn't it? It demands vigilance, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to bear the responsibility of what you've achieved. The torment now is not in the struggle to rise, but in the fear of falling, in the anxiety of sustaining what you've built, and in the self-imposed expectation of constant improvement. Consider, too, those who survive great calamities. They walk out of the ashes, scarred but alive, only to face the deeper torment within themselves, the guilt of survival, the haunting memories, the aching emptiness of loss. All of these emerge after the chaos subsides. The battle with external forces ends, but the battle within begins. The torment intensifies when we resist it, when we refuse to confront the truth it reveals. Torment is not arbitrary, it is a signal, a teacher. It whispers to us about the cracks in our foundations, the weaknesses we ignore, the truths we refuse to see. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear, it amplifies it. Running from it only makes it chase us faster. They thought it was over. But what they fail to realize is that torment is not a punishment, it's a reckoning. It is the weight of responsibility, the demand for growth, the call to face ourselves in the mirror of life. It's not over because we are not yet over. Until we transform, the torment will persist. It will stay with us not as an enemy, but as a guide. What appears to be the end of a struggle is often an illusion, a temporary pause that feels like resolution, but the reality of life is rarely that simple. Human beings are wired to seek closure. We yearn for the moment when the chaos subsides, when the noise quiets, and when we can finally exhale and believe it's over. It's comforting to think of life as a series of clear chapters, where one ends and another begins in a structured and predictable manner. Yet life defies such simplicity. The world doesn't offer us neat conclusions. What we often interpret as the end of a challenge is merely a pivot, a threshold into the unknown where new struggles await. This illusion of finality is seductive because it offers relief. It tells us that we've escaped the storm, that the pain is behind us, and that peace is ours to claim. But more often than not, that peace is fleeting. It is in these moments of perceived calm that we are most vulnerable because we let our guard down. We stop bracing ourselves, and then, when the next wave crashes, it catches us off balance, more unprepared than we were before. This is why the torment that follows an apparent resolution often feels more intense. It arrives in a form we didn't anticipate. One of the reasons this happens is that we underestimate the complexity of life's challenges. Take any significant struggle, a financial crisis, the end of a tumultuous relationship, or even the resolution of a long-standing conflict. These are not linear experiences. They don't simply end when the external circumstances change. The aftermath of such events has a life of its own. The emotional residue, the habits formed in survival mode, the scars left behind, all of these remain. They quietly influence us, shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions long after we've declared the struggle to be over. The torment shifts from being external to internal, and this transition can be disorienting. Another factor at play is our inability or unwillingness to fully process what we've been through. When we think something is over, we often rush to move on, to leave the past behind us. But unresolved issues have a way of resurfacing. They don't disappear simply because we want them to. They linger in our subconscious, emerging in moments of vulnerability. It is this re-emergence that often catches people by surprise. They thought they had closed the door on their pain, but in reality, they had only locked it away where it festered in the dark. Life also has a way of testing our growth. Just because we've overcome one challenge doesn't mean we're immune to others. In fact, the end of one struggle often serves as a gateway to the next. This isn't a flaw in the design of life, it's its very essence. Struggles are interconnected, each one preparing us for the next in ways we don't immediately recognize. What we learn or fail to learn in one chapter will inevitably influence how we face the next. The illusion of an end blinds us to this continuity, making us less prepared for the challenges ahead. Moreover, there's a profound difference between surviving and thriving. Many people mistake survival for resolution. They believe that just because they've made it through the storm, they've reached the finish line. But survival is only the beginning. To truly thrive, we must confront the deeper layers of our experience, the beliefs we've internalized, the fears we've adopted, and the ways we've changed. This process is rarely easy, and it can feel like a torment of its own. It requires us to revisit the pain we thought we had left behind, to examine it with honesty and courage. And this is why what appears to be the end is often just another beginning. The external battle may be over, but the internal work has only just begun. Life doesn't stop testing us because we've declared victory. It simply changes the nature of the test. The torment that follows an apparent resolution is not a punishment. It's an invitation to grow. And until we accept that invitation, we'll remain caught in the illusion of finality, unable to move forward. Achieving success is often perceived as the ultimate resolution to life's challenges. It's the dream we're taught to chase, the destination where all hardships seem to dissolve. But the truth is, success doesn't erase torment, it transforms it. The struggles we face in the pursuit of success may end, but they are replaced by new forms of pressure, responsibility, and fear. In many ways, these challenges can be even more demanding because they are not born out of necessity or survival, but out of the weight of sustaining what has been achieved. Success brings with it an inherent paradox. On the surface, it feels like an arrival, a culmination of effort, sacrifice, and perseverance. But in reality, it is more akin to a new starting point. Achieving a goal doesn't provide a permanent sense of relief. Instead, it introduces a new set of demands. For instance, consider someone who has worked tirelessly to build a thriving career or a successful business. The climb to the top is grueling, filled with obstacles and uncertainties. But once the summit is reached, they are faced with a new reality, the constant need to maintain their position, to prove their worth, and to innovate in an ever-changing environment. The struggle shifts from one of ambition to one of preservation, and the stakes often feel higher. This new form of torment is rooted in fear. The fear of losing what has been gained. Success is fragile, and those who achieve it are acutely aware of how quickly it can slip away. This awareness breeds a kind of vigilance that can be exhausting. Every decision, every action carries the weight of potential consequences. A misstep can feel catastrophic because the higher the climb, the further the fall. This fear of failure often eclipses the joy of success, creating a psychological tension that is difficult to escape. The very thing that was once a source of motivation becomes a source of anxiety. Moreover, success often comes with increased responsibility. Whether it's leading a team, managing wealth, or becoming a role model, the burden of responsibility grows in proportion to one's achievements. This responsibility is not just external, but deeply personal. Success can bring with it an expectation of constant self-improvement, a pressure to meet not only the expectations of others, but also the impossibly high standards we set for ourselves. The narrative shifts from, "Can I achieve this?" to, "Can I sustain this?" and "What will people think if I fail?" This internal dialogue can be relentless, driving individuals to push themselves beyond their limits in an effort to maintain their success. Another layer of complexity is the isolation that often accompanies success. The journey to achieve a goal is often shared with others, family, friends, mentors, and peers who support and encourage us. But once success is achieved, the dynamics of these relationships can change. Success can create distance, whether due to jealousy, misunderstanding, or the simple fact that fewer people can relate to the struggles of maintaining success. This isolation amplifies the internal pressures, leaving individuals to navigate their fears and anxieties alone. There's also the issue of identity. Many people tie their sense of self-worth to their achievements, believing that their value is directly proportional to their success. This mindset can make the prospect of failure unbearable, as it feels like a loss of identity rather than a temporary setback. The result is a relentless pursuit of perfection, a cycle of overachievement that leaves little room for rest, reflection, or satisfaction. And in essence, success is not the end of struggle, but a transformation of it. It shifts the landscape of our challenges, replacing the hunger for achievement with the responsibility of maintaining it. The torment of success lies in its demands, its fragility, and its ability to magnify our fears and insecurities. What once motivated us can become a source of endless pressure, reminding us that success is not a destination, but a continuous journey, fraught with its own complexities. After the storm of external struggles subsides, a deeper and often more challenging battle begins, the battle within. This is the phase that many people underestimate, believing that overcoming external obstacles marks the end of their torment. But the human experience is layered, and while external challenges are tangible and visible, the internal struggles that follow are quieter, more insidious, and profoundly personal. These struggles are shaped by the emotional scars left behind, the psychological toll of survival, and the process of redefining oneself in the aftermath of hardship. When we face an external crisis, a financial hardship, a relationship breakdown, or even a major career failure, the focus is on navigating the immediate problem. The intensity of survival mode demands our full attention. In those moments, we are consumed by the need to act, adapt, and endure. There's little time to process the emotional or psychological impact of what's happening because survival requires action, not introspection. But once the immediate threat is gone and life begins to stabilize, the unresolved emotions emerge. This is when the internal battle starts, often catching people off guard. One of the most profound aspects of this internal struggle is the emotional residue left behind. Painful experiences leave their marks, even if the situation has been resolved. The memories of what was lost, the fear experienced, or the humiliation endured don't simply vanish. They linger, often surfacing unexpectedly in the form of anxiety. These emotions can be difficult to confront because they are tied to moments of vulnerability, and revisiting them feels like opening old wounds. Yet ignoring them only intensifies their grip. Unprocessed emotions don't disappear. They manifest in other ways, influencing our thoughts, relationships, and behaviors long after the initial struggle has ended. Another layer of internal battle is the concept of identity. When someone goes through significant struggle, it often changes how they see themselves. For example, someone who loses a long-held job may begin to question their worth or purpose. Similarly, someone who has endured a tragic event might struggle to reconcile their past self with the person they've become. This identity crisis can be deeply unsettling, creating a sense of disconnection from oneself. Who am I now? What do I stand for? These questions can feel overwhelming, particularly because the answers are not always immediate or clear. Survivor's guilt is another aspect of this internal struggle. For those who emerge from a crisis relatively unscathed while others suffer greater losses, the weight of guilt can be suffocating. This is common in situations involving accidents, natural disasters, or even career success when others around them fail. The lingering thought of why me, why did I make it when others didn't, can become a torment of its own. It's a quiet but relentless questioning that undermines one's ability to feel joy or peace. The battle within also involves learning how to trust again, trusting oneself, others, and the world. External struggles, particularly those that involve betrayal, failure, or unforeseen calamities, often leave people questioning their ability to make sound decisions or feel safe. This erosion of trust can make moving forward seem impossible. People begin to second-guess themselves, doubt the intentions of others, or view the world as inherently hostile. Rebuilding trust is not an easy process. It requires vulnerability, self-compassion, and the courage to confront fears head-on. Finally, the internal battle often involves grappling with the concept of meaning. Struggles, by their very nature, disrupt the narratives we construct about our lives. They force us to confront uncomfortable truths, shattering illusions of control or predictability. In the aftermath, we're left with the task of rebuilding our sense of meaning and purpose. This is perhaps the most profound aspect of the internal struggle. It demands that we not only process what happened, but also integrate it into our lives in a way that fosters growth rather than despair. This battle within, though silent and unseen, is no less significant than the external challenges we face. It is a journey of healing, rediscovery, and transformation that requires immense courage, patience, and resilience. It is the part of the struggle that is often misunderstood, underestimated, or overlooked entirely. Yet it is the part that truly defines who we become. Torment is often viewed as a senseless burden, an unnecessary weight that we carry through life. When we face it, our instinct is usually to resist, to escape it as quickly as possible, or to numb its effects. But torment is rarely random. It doesn't arise in a vacuum or strike arbitrarily. It serves a purpose, though its lessons are rarely easy to recognize in the moment. Beneath its painful surface, torment acts as a teacher, signaling deeper truths about ourselves, our circumstances, and the choices we make. To dismiss it as meaningless suffering is to miss an opportunity for growth and transformation. Fortunately, being impacted by terror changes everything. Being impacted by insanity brings it to a higher and deeper level. At its core, torment exposes the cracks in our foundations. It forces us to confront the aspects of our lives that we often avoid or overlook. Perhaps it's a toxic relationship we've stayed in for too long, a career path that no longer aligns with our values, or a pattern of behaviors that continually leads us into harm. When torment arises, it's a signal that something within us or around us needs attention. Pain, whether emotional or physical, is the body and mind's way of telling us that something is wrong. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It only allows the underlying issues to fester and grow. In many cases, torment arises from resistance to change. As humans, we are creatures of habit, often clinging to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves us. This resistance is natural. Change is uncomfortable, uncertain, and often frightening. But torment has a way of forcing us out of complacency. It nudges us, and sometimes shoves us, toward a reckoning with the aspects of our lives that need to evolve. For instance, someone stuck in a stagnant job may feel a growing sense of dissatisfaction and stress. That torment, while unpleasant, is a sign that it's time to explore new opportunities, even if doing so feels risky or uncomfortable. Torment acts as a catalyst, pushing us toward the transformation we might otherwise avoid. Torment also challenges the narratives we tell ourselves about who we are. Many of us construct identities based on comfort and certainty. We tell ourselves, I'm strong, I'm in control, or I know what I want. But when torment strikes, it often shatters these illusions, leaving us face to face with our vulnerabilities. This confrontation can be deeply unsettling, but it's also where the most significant growth occurs. By challenging our assumptions about ourselves, torment forces us to expand our understanding of who we are. It reveals our blind spots, the areas where we need to grow, and the strengths we didn't realize we possessed. Another important function of torment is its ability to foster resilience. Struggles, no matter how painful, teach us how to endure, adapt, and overcome. Each experience of torment adds to our capacity to navigate life's challenges. It's not that torment makes us immune to pain. It doesn't. but it equips us with the tools to face future difficulties with greater strength and perspective. Think of it as the process of tempering steel. It's the repeated exposure to heat and pressure that makes the material stronger, not weaker. Similarly, torment, when faced with courage and reflection, can forge a more resilient spirit. Finally, torment has a way of deepening our empathy. When we experience pain, we gain a greater understanding of the struggles of others. This shared human experience of suffering connects us in profound ways. It reminds us that we are not alone in our challenges and that others too carry their burdens. This awareness fosters compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves. It allows us to approach life with a greater sense of humility, kindness, and interconnectedness. The key to understanding torment as a teacher lies in how we respond to it. If we resist, deny, or numb it, we rob ourselves of the lessons it has to offer. But if we lean into it, examine its origins, and ask what it is trying to show us, we unlock the potential for growth and transformation. Torment is rarely easy, but it is often necessary. It is a guide that, however painful, leads us toward the truths we need to face to become stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled individuals. Torment persists because it demands transformation. It lingers, not as an arbitrary punishment, but as an unrelenting call for growth. When we face challenges, it's easy to think that overcoming the immediate problem will end the pain. But torment remains as a force that won't let us rest until we evolve. It is a mirror that reflects back our vulnerabilities, limitations, and fears, compelling us to confront them. Until we heed its lessons, it will continue to press on us, forcing us to engage in the difficult and often uncomfortable process of transformation. Transformation is not a passive process. It requires deliberate effort and courage. Torment arises when there's a disconnect between who we are and who we could be. It pushes us toward the version of ourselves that is capable of handling the realities we face. This doesn't mean torment is pleasant or easy to understand. It often feels unfair, overwhelming, or even cruel. But these feelings are part of its power. They force us to pay attention. They disrupt our comfort and shake us out of stagnation, creating the conditions necessary for meaningful change. One of the reasons torment persists is that we often resist its call for transformation. Change is inherently uncomfortable. It challenges our routines, disrupts our sense of identity, and forces us to confront truths we might prefer to ignore. For example, someone who struggles with persistent feelings of inadequacy may avoid situations that require them to step outside their comfort zone. They might rationalize this avoidance by blaming external circumstances or minimizing the importance of growth. But the torment doesn't disappear. It festers, manifesting as anxiety, frustration, or a gnawing sense of dissatisfaction. The discomfort will remain until the individual faces their fears and takes steps toward self-improvement. Another aspect of torment's role in transformation is its ability to illuminate patterns in our lives. Many of us find ourselves facing similar challenges repeatedly, often without understanding why. This repetition isn't random. It's a signal that there are lessons we haven't yet learned. Torment persists because it is trying to draw our attention to these patterns. Perhaps it's a tendency to prioritize others' needs over our own, leading to burnout and resentment. Or it might be a recurring inability to set boundaries, resulting in relationships that drain rather than nurture us. By examining the torment we experience, we can begin to identify these patterns and take steps to break free from them. Torment also challenges us to take responsibility for our lives. It is easy to fall into the trap of blaming external factors for our struggles, circumstances, other people, or even bad luck. While external forces do play a role, torment often arises when we avoid taking ownership of our choices and actions. For example, someone who consistently feels unfulfilled in their career might blame their employer, co-workers, or the industry as a whole. But the deeper truth might be that they've ignored their passions or avoided pursuing opportunities that align with their values. Torment persists to remind us that we have the power and the responsibility to make changes that lead to a more authentic and fulfilling life. The process of transformation also requires us to let go of the past. Torment often clings to unresolved pain, unhealed wounds, or regrets about missed opportunities. It forces us to confront what we are holding on to and asks us to release it. Letting go is one of the most challenging aspects of transformation because it involves vulnerability and trust. We must trust that the future holds possibilities beyond what we've lost, and that our identity is not solely defined by our past experiences. This act of release is essential for moving forward, yet it is one of the most emotionally demanding steps in the process. Finally, torment transforms us by deepening our understanding of ourselves. It pushes us to ask difficult questions. What do I truly want? What am I afraid of? What values do I hold? And am I living in alignment with them? These questions are not easy to answer, and the process of exploring them can feel like wandering through darkness. But it is in this exploration that we uncover our strengths, clarify our purpose, and redefine what it means to live a meaningful life. Torment forces us to go beyond superficial solutions and engage with the core of who we are. Ultimately, transformation is not a single event, but an ongoing process. Torment persists until we face it, learn from it, and allow it to shape us into stronger, wiser, and more authentic versions of ourselves. It is a relentless guide, one that challenges us to rise above our fears, take responsibility for our lives, and embrace the potential for growth that lies within us. When the external chaos of life subsides and the initial storm appears to have passed, a peculiar form of torment often emerges. The silence, the absence of noise, the calm after struggle, can seem like a blessing at first, but it is in this stillness that the deeper, unaddressed truths of our existence rise to the surface. The quiet has a way of amplifying what we have been avoiding, forcing us to confront the unresolved emotions, the unspoken fears, and the fragmented parts of ourselves that were buried beneath the urgency of survival. This silent torment is one of the most profound because it cannot be escaped through external distractions. It demands introspection, acceptance, and ultimately reconciliation. The silence following struggle creates a vacuum where reflection becomes unavoidable. In the midst of chaos, action dominates. There's no time to stop and think deeply because survival or resolution takes precedence. But when the external turmoil fades, the mind begins to turn inward. This shift can feel disorienting because it confronts us with questions we had been too busy to consider. Who am I now after everything that has happened? What does this struggle mean for my life? What do I do with the pain that still lingers? These questions are not easily answered, and the uncertainty they bring can become a source of deep unease. One of the reasons silent torment is so difficult to face is that it often strips away the illusions we use to sustain ourselves during hardship. During a crisis, we might tell ourselves stories to keep going, stories of eventual triumph, redemption, or resolution. These narratives give us a sense of control and hope. But when the crisis ends, and those outcomes don't materialize as expected, the gap between what we hoped for and what actually happened becomes glaringly apparent. This dissonance forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the unpredictability of life and the limits of our control. It can leave us feeling disillusioned, even in moments that should bring relief or celebration. Silent torment also brings to light the emotional residue of our struggles. Trauma, regret, guilt, and grief often lie dormant until they are given space to surface. In the quiet, these emotions demand attention. For example, someone who has survived a personal loss may find that the initial wave of grief is replaced by a deeper, more enduring sadness that arises in the stillness of daily life. Similarly, someone who has achieved a long-sought goal may feel an inexplicable emptiness when the initial euphoria fades, revealing unresolved fears or doubts. The silence forces us to acknowledge these feelings, even when we would rather avoid them. This phase of silent torment can also challenge our sense of identity. Struggles often shape us, but they also consume us, becoming central to how we see ourselves. When the struggle ends, we are left to redefine who we are without it. This can feel destabilizing because it requires us to let go of the version of ourselves that existed in the context of the struggle and embrace a new, unfamiliar identity. The process of redefining ourselves is not linear or straightforward. It involves trial and error, self-doubt, and moments of profound vulnerability. Another aspect of silent torment is the search for meaning. After a struggle, we often look back and ask, what was the purpose of all this? Finding meaning in pain is not always possible, and the absence of clear answers can be deeply unsettling. This existential questioning can become its own form of torment, especially if we feel that the struggle was senseless or unfair. Yet this search for meaning is also an opportunity for growth. It pushes us to dig deeper into our values, beliefs, and purpose, forcing us to create a narrative that allows us to move forward with greater clarity and intention. Lastly, the silence exposes our need for connection. During times of struggle, we often draw strength from others, friends, family, or a broader community. But once the struggle ends, those connections can weaken or shift, leaving us feeling isolated. The silence magnifies this sense of disconnection, reminding us of the importance of relationships and the difficulty of maintaining them in the absence of shared hardship. This realization can lead to feelings of loneliness, but it also highlights the need to nurture meaningful connections moving forward. Silent torment, though profoundly uncomfortable, is a crucial part of the human experience. It is in this stillness that we are given the chance to face ourselves without distraction, to process what we've endured, and to rebuild on a foundation of authenticity. It is not an easy process, but it is necessary for growth, healing, and the creation of a life that is not defined solely by struggle, but by the wisdom and resilience born from it. Torment is not merely a challenge to be endured, it is also a process of transformation that changes the way we see the world, others, and ourselves. In its depths, torment carries a paradoxical potential. It breaks us open to new understandings while stripping away illusions we once relied upon. It forces us to question the narratives we've built, to dismantle the assumptions we've carried, and to re-examine the foundations upon which our beliefs rest. Through this process, torment reframes our reality, sometimes in painful ways, but also in ways that allow us to emerge with a clearer, deeper perspective. When we encounter torment, it often shakes our sense of certainty. Certainty feels safe. It provides a framework for understanding the world and our place within it. But certainty is also fragile, and torment has a way of exposing its flaws. Perhaps we were certain of someone's loyalty, only to experience betrayal. Perhaps we believed that our efforts would lead to success, only to face failure despite our hard work. Because the comfort is challenged, and when the comfort is gone, in these moments, torment strips away the illusions of predictability and fairness. It reveals the complexities and unpredictabilities of life, forcing us to grapple with the discomfort of not knowing. This confrontation with uncertainty is difficult, but it also invites us to embrace a more nuanced view of reality, one that acknowledges the inherent unpredictability of the human experience. Torment also reframes how we see others. When we experience pain, loss, or failure, it changes the way we relate to the struggles of those around us. Before, we may have viewed other people's difficulties through a lens of judgment or detachment, believing that their circumstances were the result of poor choices or bad luck. But when we endure torment ourselves, we begin to see the shared threads of human suffering. We recognize that pain is not confined to a select few, but is a universal experience that touches everyone in different ways. This recognition fosters empathy and compassion. It allows us to approach others with greater understanding, to listen more deeply, and to offer support without judgment. In this way, torment bridges the divide between individuals, creating connections that are rooted in shared vulnerability. At the same time, torment reframes our perception of ourselves. It exposes parts of us that we may not have fully understood or acknowledged before. In the midst of struggle, we encounter our limits, our fears, insecurities, and weaknesses. But we also discover strengths we didn't know we possessed. Torment forces us to confront the truth about who we are, unfiltered by pretense or denial. This self-awareness can be both painful and liberating. It reveals the ways in which we've been holding ourselves back, clinging to outdated beliefs or unhealthy patterns. But it also provides an opportunity for growth, offering a chance to realign with our values and aspirations. One of the most profound ways torment reframes reality is by challenging our relationship with control. We often live under the illusion that we can control the outcomes of our lives through effort, planning, and willpower. While these factors do matter, torment reminds us that control is never absolute. Unexpected events, loss, illness, betrayal can upend even the most carefully constructed plans. This realization can feel disheartening, but it also carries a liberating truth. While we may not control everything that happens to us, we do have control over how we respond. Torment reframes our focus, shifting it from controlling outcomes to cultivating resilience, adaptability, and grace in the face of uncertainty. Finally, torment forces us to reconsider what truly matters. When we are stripped of comfort or security, we are confronted with the essence of our values. What do we hold on to when everything else is taken away? What gives us a sense of meaning, even in the darkest moments? These questions are not abstract, they are deeply personal, and the answers often come through the lived experience of pain. Torment clarifies our priorities, stripping away superficial concerns and bringing our attention to the relationships, values, and pursuits that genuinely sustain us. Through all these shifts in perspective, torment reshapes the way we navigate the world. It deepens our understanding, sharpens our awareness, and broadens our capacity for empathy and growth. While its lessons are hard-earned, they offer a way forward, a path not defined by avoidance of pain, but by a willingness to face it, learn from it, and emerge transformed. The human capacity to endure torment often reveals a paradoxical strength, the ability to build meaning in its aftermath. Pain, suffering, and struggle, while deeply unpleasant, have a unique way of forcing us to ask questions we might otherwise avoid. They confront us with the raw edges of life, stripping away illusions and distractions, and in doing so, push us to examine what truly matters. This process, though uncomfortable, is also profoundly transformative. Torment serves as a crucible for meaning. It burns away what is trivial and leaves behind the essence of what is significant. In the aftermath of torment, there is often a need to make sense of the experience. This need isn't just intellectual, it's deeply emotional and existential. Without meaning, suffering can feel overwhelming, even unbearable. But when we find meaning in our struggles, they become something more than mere pain. They become part of a larger narrative, a story that gives purpose to the hardship we've endured. This is not to say that torment is inherently meaningful on its own. Rather, meaning is something we create. It is an act of resilience and agency, a way of reclaiming power over experiences that might otherwise leave us feeling helpless. The process of finding meaning often begins with reflection. Torment forces us to confront questions that are difficult but necessary. Why did this happen? What can I learn from this? How can I grow because of it? These questions are not easily answered, and the answers themselves may evolve over time. For some, meaning may come from personal growth, the realization that they are stronger or more resilient than they once believed. The interaction between healing and pain harmonizes, and it opens us up to new possibilities. The realization that they are stronger or more resilient than they once believed. For others, it may come from a sense of connection to others, recognizing that their suffering has deepened their empathy and allowed them to support others in similar situations. Meaning is deeply personal, and what it looks like will differ for everyone. What matters is the act of seeking it, the willingness to wrestle with pain and extract something valuable from it. Torment also compels us to reevaluate our priorities. When life is comfortable, it's easy to focus on things that, in the grand scheme, don't matter much: status, material success, or fleeting pleasures. But when we are faced with deep suffering, these concerns often fall away, revealing what is truly important. Torment has a way of clarifying our values, highlighting the relationships, goals, and beliefs that give our lives substance and depth. For instance, someone who has faced a life-threatening illness might emerge with a renewed focus on spending time with loved ones or pursuing a passion they had long set aside. This shift in priorities is one of the ways torment reshapes us, aligning our lives more closely with what truly matters. Another dimension of meaning building in torment's aftermath is the potential for connection and contribution. Suffering can feel isolating, but it also serves as a reminder of the shared human experience. Everyone at some point faces pain and struggle. This shared reality can become a source of connection, allowing us to relate to others in a more authentic and compassionate way. Many people find that their experiences with torment motivate them to help others, whether by sharing their stories, offering support, or working to address the causes of suffering in the world. In this way, torment doesn't just lead to personal growth, it can also become a force for collective healing and positive change. Finding meaning in torment also requires us to confront and accept its inevitability. Pain and struggle are part of the human condition. No life is free from difficulty, and trying to avoid suffering altogether often leads to a shallow or inauthentic existence. Accepting this reality doesn't mean resigning ourselves to misery. It means embracing life in its entirety, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the pain. This acceptance allows us to approach torment not as a failure or punishment, but as an integral part of the journey. It reframes our relationship with suffering, transforming it from something to be feared into something that, while difficult, can also be deeply meaningful. Finally, the meaning we build from torment often extends beyond ourselves. Our struggles shape us, but they also ripple outward, affecting the people around us. By enduring and finding meaning in torment, we model resilience, courage, and the capacity for transformation. We show others that it is possible to emerge from pain not only intact, but stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. In this way, torment becomes a source of inspiration, a reminder that even in life's darkest moments, there is potential for growth, connection, and meaning. Torment challenges us in ways we would never choose, but it also offers opportunities we might never find otherwise. It pushes us to confront the deepest parts of ourselves, to ask hard questions, and to create meaning in the face of adversity. This process is not easy, but it is profoundly human. And it is through this process that we find not just survival, but transformation and purpose. Torment is not merely an experience to endure. It is a profound catalyst for transformation, growth, and self-discovery. It pushes us beyond the surface of our existence, forcing us to confront the truths we would rather avoid and compelling us to embrace the depths of our own resilience. Through torment, we learn to navigate uncertainty, to seek meaning in pain, and to rise above circumstances that threaten to consume us. It reframes our reality, reshapes our relationships, and reveals the untapped strength and potential within us. Though it may seem insurmountable in the moment, torment holds the power to forge clarity, purpose, and connection that transcends the suffering itself. It reminds us that even in our darkest hours, we are capable of growth and redemption, and that our struggles, when faced with courage, can become the foundation for a life of greater meaning and authenticity. Now,